Hello, and today we'll be looking at moral and prosocial development. So go ahead. And what is moral and prosocial behavior? Well, morality is what we believe to be morally right or wrong, and then prosocial behavior is promoting others' well being before yourself. So showing empathy, helping others, looking out for others' own welfare is all examples of prosocial behavior. And then to get a better grasp on what prosocial behavior is, we're going to watch this short video.
Prosocial behavior. Prosocial behavior occurs when people act to benefit others rather than themselves. Altruism, cooperation, and caregiving are a few examples of prosocial behavior. Prosocial behavior is a central part of morality. As social psychologist Daniel Batson notes, much of interpersonal morality involves giving weight to the interests and desires of others in situations in which our interests and theirs conflict. Research reveals that those who act prosocially tend to be happier, to be healthier, and to live longer. Those who don't act prosocially tend to suffer the psychological cost that comes with guilt. Prosocial behavior is contagious. Studies show that people who see others act prosocially are more likely to do so themselves. People also seem to have an innate preference for prosocial behavior. For example, in one study, even babies preferred to play with a doll that they saw act in a helpful way over another doll that they saw act in a selfish way. Law professor Lynn Stout observes unselfish prosocial behavior is so omnipresent in American society that it often goes unnoticed. Indeed, consider how frequently people help each other, donate to charity, and volunteer. For example, in 2014, charitable giving reached an all-time high, with more than $358 billion in donations. And overall, 45% of Americans volunteer, making the United States third in the world for offering time and talents to help others. So, while prosocial behavior may often go unnoticed, it can be argued that helping others is the cornerstone of a just and decent society.
Okay, so hopefully that helped you get a better understanding of prosocial behavior. Now we can look at what is prosocial behavior and how does it work in our brain. So prosocial behavior involves three different regions of our brain. It involves our emotions, so our affection and concern for others' well-being, so when you have empathy and you care for someone. And then it also has the complex reasoning abilities, and this is where we are logically determining what actions are morally right or wrong. So you see something and you're trying to decide, is this right or is that wrong? That's your complex reasoning ability. And then your implicit values and beliefs. This is when we immediately know that an action is morally wrong. We don't have a reason for it. We just know that's wrong. So the key elements that we're going to cover in this presentation is, first we're going to cover developmental trends in morality and prosocial behavior. Then we're going to look at the factors that influence moral and prosocial development, and then how we can promote moral and prosocial development in the classroom. So first, when we look at the developmental trends in moral and prosocial behavior, we see that they're listed by different grades. So first, when we look at K through 2, we see that students start to feel guilt or shame if they misbehaved or if they caused others harm. They also understand the need to be fair, and they want to show empathy and comfort. When we look at grades 3 through 5, we can see that students know social conventions for fitting behavior. They have the desires to help others, and they realize that fairness doesn't necessarily mean equality. In grades 6 through 8, students understand that some rules are not laws and that these rules are under subjection. They also believe that people in need are responsible for their fate. And then in the high school grades of 9th through 12th grade, students are concerned about their duty in following rules of society. They also understand that these rules are there for a reason and that they have a purpose, and they have genuine empathy for people that are in distress. Another developmental trend that we can see is from Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development. This involves 3 different levels and 6 different stages. The first level is the pre-conventional morality. This involves students that are in preschool, elementary, and some middle school, and this also includes the stages 1 and 2 out of the 6. Then move on to conventional morality. This is some elementary and middle school students, but mainly in high school students, and this includes stages 3 and 4. Lastly, we have post-conventional morality, and this is rarely seen before college, and this includes stages 5 and 6. Now we're going to look at a video that goes a little bit more into depth of Kohlberg's 6 stages.
In 6 stages. The stages themselves are structured in 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. To understand this better, imagine a conflict at school. There is a fight in the schoolyard. 2 ninth graders are beating up Tom. Those who watch the fight are at different stages of moral development. Let's see what they do and how they justify their behavior. At stage 1, we make moral judgments based on obedience and punishment. Finn's sense of good or bad is directly linked to whether he gets punished or not. Finn sees what is happening to his friend and wants to help, but he doesn't because he is afraid the teacher may punish him if he gets caught fighting. He asks himself, how can I avoid punishment? At stage 2, we are motivated by self-interest. Mary decides to intervene and help Tom. She knows that she might get punished, but she also knows that she could become a victim herself someday. If she helps Tom now, he might help her in the future. She is asking herself, what's in it for me? At stage 3, interpersonal accord and conformity guide our moral judgment. Betty sees the fight and wants to intervene, but when she realizes that all the others are just watching, she decides not to get involved. She wants others to see that she is a good girl who is conforming with the ethics of the community. She asks herself, what do others think of me? At stage 4, we value authority and want to maintain social order. When the teacher sees the group fighting, he immediately steps in and shouts, "Stop! Fighting at school is forbidden." He feels that, above all, it is important to follow the rules, otherwise chaos breaks out. He feels it is his duty to uphold the rules that sustain a functioning society. He asks himself, how can I maintain law and order? At stage 5, we understand rules as a social contract, as opposed to a strict order. Jessie, who watches from afar, is not sure how she feels about this. To her, rules make sense only if they serve the right purpose. Obviously, the school rules prohibit fighting, but maybe Tom deserves to finally learn his lesson. Just yesterday, he punched a young girl from grade 1. She asks herself, does a rule truly serve all members of the community? At stage 6, we are guided by universal ethical principles. All those involved now have to face the headmaster. He first explains the school rules and why they exist. He then clarifies that rules are valid only if they are grounded in justice. The commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust rules. The headmaster's highest moral principle is compassion. He believes that all people should learn to understand each other's viewpoints, and that they don't feel alone with their feelings. He asks, what are the abstract ethical principles that serve my understandings of justice? At the pre-conventional level, Finn is driven by fear and Mary by self-interest. Both judge what is right or wrong by the direct consequences they expect for themselves and not by social norms. This form of reasoning is common among children. At the conventional level, Betty responds to peer pressure, and the teacher follows the rules. Their morality is centered around what society regards as right. At this level, the fairness of rules is seldom questioned. It is common to think like this during adolescence and adulthood. At the post-conventional level, Jessie knows that things are complicated because individuals may disobey rules inconsistent with their own morality. The headmaster follows a universal ethical idea, at complete disconnect with what society thinks or the rules say. To him, everything is solved through compassion. The right behavior, in his opinion, is therefore never a means to an end, but always an end in itself. Not every person reaches this level. The American psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg based his work on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. In order to confirm his theory of stages of moral development, Kohlberg interviewed boys between the ages of 10 and 16. He analyzed how they would justify their decision when confronted with different hypothetical moral dilemmas. We will now present to you the most famous moral dilemma Kohlberg presented to his students. Let's see what you would do. The Heinz Dilemma. A woman was on her deathbed. There was only one drug that the doctors thought might save her. The druggist that made that particular medicine sold it for 10 times the price of the production costs. The sick woman's husband, Heinz, was poor and could not afford to buy the drug, not even with the financial help of his friends. Heinz then asked the pharmacist to sell it to him for half the price, but he refused. To save the life of his wife, Heinz broke into the man's laboratory and stole the medicine. Now tell us, should Heinz have stolen the drug? Would it change anything if Heinz didn't love his wife? What if the person dying was not his wife, but a stranger? Should the police arrest the druggist for murder if the wife had died? Please write your answers and their justifications in the comments below.
So obviously I'm not going to give your answers, but I thought that was a cool way to just get your mind thinking about Kohlberg's theory. As we move on to our second element about factors that influence moral and prosocial development, some advanced moral reasoning depends on cognitive development and the ability to think through multiple issues simultaneously. It's also to understand that abstract ideas like justice and human rights. Some might think that because cognitive development means academically and you do well, that doesn't necessarily mean moral development. Thus, a student could perform very well on a test or at school, but not necessarily be able to determine right and wrong and those kind of behaviors. Also, a child's social and cultural environment is a big part in how they're influenced. If a child sees a parent, a sibling, a close adult, or some type of caregiver that is always helping others, is showing empathy, is caring, volunteering, being a part of society, that child is more likely to follow in those footsteps. Also, the surrounding influences for entertainment that the child is being open to, such as TV shows, videos, video games, books, games, board games, anything like that. This will also impact a child's want to behave prosocially. So, for example, if one of their favorite TV shows is, let's say, SpongeBob, and they see SpongeBob behaving prosocially, they're going to want to be like SpongeBob, or whatever character it may be. Also, when adults are consistently using induction, and induction is asking children to reflect or think about the harm that they've caused others. And this just helps the student understand what they have done and that they can cause harm to others and that they should make amends for this harm. This also helps them be aware of their behavior and just the importance of showing empathy and compassion. Also, the disequilibrium, and this allows children to address and discuss moral problems openly and freely. Lastly, how to promote moral and prosocial behavior in the classroom. So when a student hurts another student's feelings, that's a good opportunity to talk about how harmful behavior hurts others, reflecting on that harmful behavior and going forward, and then showing empathy to each other. Another big thing is to discourage cheating in the classroom and provide guidance and support students so that they feel they can complete their work independently and that won't happen. Also, it's important to get students actively involved in the community, going on field trips, picking up trash around the school, helping others, just also getting that prosocial behavior of helping, caring, showing empathy. Community service is always a great thing to show prosocial behavior. Also, it's good to give reasons for why some behaviors are unacceptable and the reasons behind this. And these scenarios are also a really good way to practice induction of how students can make others feel and have them reflect on these scenarios. Lastly, we should engage students in moral issues that are related to academic subject matter. This could look very different in different grade levels, but something that I was thinking of for say an elementary classroom would be asking students that are learning about slavery if the slave owners had the right to treat the slaves the way that they did, if that was right or wrong, and have them reflect and explain why they thought that. And that is it. So hopefully this helped you understand a little bit more about moral and prosocial behavior and just what it all entails.